Hey guys, it's Ashley and I'm working on another quilt block, and for this one I thought I would do probably a 9-patch square, which is a really common, very simple block, and it's a really great kind of statement filler block. So I wanted to use some of this fabric particularly because I really love the birds and the flowers, and it has a really great assortment of colors, so it will go pretty well throughout the whole quilt if I use it in like small pieces. So I have it turned over, and right now I actually have, there's my new cutting mat, and normally I would just use my cutting wheel, but my wheel is out of refills, so I need to go run to the store. But I figured I could still cut things in the meantime by using my square ruler here. And then what I'm going to actually do is trace inside with a disappearing marker on the back, and you won't see it. And then I'm going to trace a whole bunch of the shapes out, cut them out by hand using a pair of scissors. And then I'm going to pick an alternating fabric, and once I get them cut into squares like this, then I'm going to go ahead and sew the other pieces together, and I'll show you how I lay it out. Okay, so I have a pile of my focus fabric done and a pile of the other fabric that go with it done, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys kind of the process for when you create your own 9-patch quilt blocks. So what you're going to do is pick the fabric that you want to be your focal point, and you're actually going to use 5 pieces of that. So you're going to actually start arranging it in kind of an interesting little pattern here, but you start with the center block and then you build off of that. So you're going to have one in each corner here, one in the center, and then one in this corner here as well. So that's kind of the basic concept for it, and then what you're going to do is you put your accent fabric in there as well. So when you start sewing this, you're actually going to sew this in strips. So I'm going to show you what that actually looks like, but this is just kind of the layout so you can kind of see how it goes together. And it's really interesting because you can take the same 2 fabrics, and just depending how you arrange them, it completely changes the way the block looks. So if we follow this pattern, this is the way that the block's going to end up looking, and it makes this one, you know, kind of the more dominant fabric. But if you change it around, it looks just a little bit different. If you change it around, this is what it would actually look like the opposite way. So if you have, if you want to kind of like alternate it, you can do it like that, or you can just pick your focus fabric for the centers. So either way, whichever one that you prefer, it's a really easy block to make. So when you sew it together, you actually sew it together 2 pieces at a time. So you just put these together and sew along there, and you sew them in strips. So you'll have all the first 3 completely joined in a row, and then you'd sew these 3 together, and then you'd sew these 3 together, and then you can actually sew these 2 strips combined together, and then the second one sewn the same way, and then eventually you get a full quilt block. And just another tip, when you're sewing, if you want to make it super quick and you want to make a lot of blocks at the same time, just do 2 of the opposite blocks together, and you don't even have to cut the string. You can just sew it together and then continue it and sew the next one, and you keep going, and you make a whole string of these. And just make sure to leave yourself enough blocks to complete because you're doing 3 blocks at a time, so just add 1 more to the end when you're done with each one. But this just saves you a lot of time from cutting and everything towards the end. I have a ton of these kind of chain made here. What I'm going to go ahead and do is just start working on clipping off the little tags here as I go, and just keep dragging these up here, and then I'll have a huge pile to work with, and it makes it so much quicker when you're actually going to build the block itself. So the next step with these is to go ahead and you pick your first one, and you're just going to go ahead and open this up and decide, okay, so this is going to be the top of the block. So I have one of my focus fabrics, the accent fabric, and then I'm going to go ahead and put another focus fabric, because we start out with kind of a grid pattern where it's 2 on the top, 1 in the middle, and then 2 on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this one with the sides facing together, and I'm going to go ahead and complete the rows and show you guys from there. Here is a finished block when you sew all the pieces together, and as you guys can see, as long as the seams line up, in the corners, it's going to look as, you know, nice as possible. Sometimes you will have some areas where you have, you know, a slight difference there, but that doesn't matter because you're going to sew along that seam anyway, so it's not visible. So just make sure that you can get the points matching as much as possible. And for this, it's actually one of the easiest blocks to make, and it's a really great kind of filler block. It's a good way to like kind of showcase fabric and create a really, you know, geometric design.